For the next lesson, we're going to look at the bottom of our organizer, and we're going to look at solving absolute value equations. So how are you going to recognize? It's going to have an absolute value in there with some kind of a variable expression inside of it. And what you do, you take whatever's in here, and it's going to be equal to some number. You make it equal the positive number, and then you take that and make it equal the negative number. Now, the reason for that is the absolute value of, say, 10 is 10, and the absolute value of negative 10 is also 10. So, what's inside the absolute value can be a number or the opposite of the number, and we'll use that strategy to solve these equations. So I'm looking in section 8.3 at problem number 5. Now this is the very simplest of problems. It just says the absolute value of x equals 12. So I take what's inside my absolute value symbol, which is just the x, make it equal the 12, make it equal the negative 12, and those are my two answers. Except in rare circumstances, absolute value equations have two answers. So if you don't have two, something's wrong. And it's probably going to tell you in my math lab to enter them separated by a comma. So you would enter it like 12, negative 12. Alright. Oh, number 7. What's inside my absolute value is 4x. And it's equal to 20. So I put 4x equals 20, 4x equals negative 20. Equals the positive number and the negative number. And then you just do whatever's necessary to solve those two little parts. Those are two separate little equations. So on this side, I need to divide both sides by 4. And you can't see that. And I get x equals 5. On this side, I divide both sides by 4. And I get x equals negative 5. So my two answers are 5 and negative 5. Number 9. What's inside my absolute value is x minus 3. So I'm going to put x minus 3 equals 9. X minus 3 equals negative 9. That's how I get my two equations. And then I solve those as two separate equations. So I look at this one and say, what do I need to do? I need to add a 3, and I get x equals 12. On this one, I need to add a 3, and I get x equals negative 6. So my two answers for number 9 are positive 12 and negative 6. Moving on down to number 11. I take what's inside the absolute value symbol, make it equal to the positive and to the negative. So here it is. 2x minus 1 equals 11. 2x minus 1 equals a negative 11. So you're going to solve this little equation by adding 1 to both sides and getting 2x equals 12. Then you're going to divide by 2 and get x equals 6. On this side, you're going to add 1 and get 2x equals negative 10. Then divide by 2 and get x equals negative 5. Moving on to number 13. Same principle. 4x minus 5 is going to equal 17. 4x minus 5 is going to equal negative 17. Then you're going to solve each one of those little equations. So here I added 5 and I divided by 4. I ended up with 22 over 4 that I simplified to 11 over 2. You do want to simplify, but you don't want to change it to a mixed number. On this side, I added 5 and got negative 11. I'm sorry, that's a negative 12. Negative 17 and 5 is negative 12. Then I divided by 4 and got negative 3. So my two answers for this one would be 11 halves, and I'd separate with a comma, and -3. Keep going out of focus. Okay. Now number 15. Same principle. 2x plus 5 equals 14. 2x plus 5 equals -14. There are my two equations. So on this one, I subtracted 5 and got 9. Then I divided by 2 and got 9 halves. On this one, I subtracted 5 and got -19. Divided by 2 and got -19 over 2. So my two answers are 9 over 2 and -19 over 2. All right, on number 23, same principle. 1/2 x plus 3 equals 2. 1/2 x plus 3 equals -2. So there are my two equations. On this one, I needed to subtract 3. So this 2 minus 3 gave me a -1. I brought down my 1/2 x. Now, the x is multiplied by 1/2, so I need to divide by that. And you can do that on the calculator if you need to. Enter -1 divided by 1/2, and you'll see that the answer is -2. Or you can do it by dividing fractions and multiply by the reciprocal and still get -2. On this side, I subtracted 3 and got -5. Then I'm dividing by the 1/2 again, and -5 divided by 1/2 is -10. That can also be done on the calculator if needed. The last two problems is a reminder that before you separate it into the two equations, you need to have just the absolute value by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is to add this 1 to both sides to get the absolute value equals 5. You clean it up, you isolate the absolute value before you separate it into two equations. Now this is the simplistic version, so I just write x equals 5 and x equals -5, and I'm through. And then for number 81, it's the same principle in that I need to clean it up and get the absolute value by itself. So I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides so that I will get the absolute value by itself. And now I have the absolute value of x plus 4 equals, that's a +1. That is not a -1. +1. Okay. Alright, so that's a +1. So now I do x plus 4 equals 1, x plus 4 equals -1. In this one I subtracted 4 and got -3. In this one I subtracted 4 and got -5. So there are my two answers. So now you should be ready to solve do the homework on the absolute value. I'm going to make that go away so it doesn't look like it's a negative. Absolute value equations. And that will end your two assignments for this week.